Hello, everybody, and this is a late night guitar lesson that we're going to do. And this is session number 11 for those that want to play lead kind of shredding style guitar. And I'm going to go over some pentatonic scales. I haven't done that yet. We've been working the modes and learning our modes really well. So hopefully by now we have Dorian and Ionian, well, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian all down. And you've kind of learned how to work with that. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to take kind of our background music that we've been doing in the last lesson, and we're going to put it in to do a pentatonic scale over it, and which we haven't done yet, so it'll be cool. And by the way, my name's Bo, and I don't know anything about guitar, and it's just a fun instrument. I've actually been around it for a long time in my life and had wonderful professors, and it's fun to always be able to do these lessons and get people to maybe play a little bit. Hey, Debbie, Mike, Coyle, hope you guys are doing good. Yeah, I am gonna shred it a little bit. We're gonna learn some pentatonic. So I'm gonna play this background for you guys again, and what I'm hoping happens is tomorrow or the next day when people are up, they can check out this thing. If they're still up tonight and they want to be a part of the late night guitar lesson, then let's do it. There's nothing like being up at night. It's quiet and you can kind of just have the time to work on these things. And I must confess, I'm not a huge pentatonic guy. So there's people that you'll hear in blues are just that kind of blues style. You've heard pentatonic's really just you can hear it to the ear. Like let me play this background. Hopefully you guys can hear that okay. Let me know if you can hear that. But I think you guys can hear that background, that little. And that's kind of the. Probably to some of you guys, just that. Let me stop this. Some of the kind of earliest songs I've ever learned. I remember growing up and I was playing things like. Just little songs like that, and so just that sound, that really cool sound, is so popular, and you kind of hear it in even. So you hear it maybe like that a little bit, where it's kind of got that more. That kind of sliding sound, right? So what we want to do is we want to learn the pentatonic, and then we want to kind of understand its theory, and then we're going to be able to see how we play it with the modes, which is really cool. So I hope you guys get that. So anyway, so what we first want to do is just go over the formula of the pentatonic scale. And so this is how, and I want you to look at your Ionian. If you remember the Ionian, of course you remember that. That's the first one when we were playing in G major. We just did that for G major Ionian scale. Might have looked like this to you. Right? It might have looked like that instead of this. Or right? Okay, so when you if you take that Ionian, and I like to do it like this, so you see it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just standard major. And then if we just looked at this and we went 1, and then we flatten the third, so we make it into a minor third, and then we go to 4, and then we go to 5, and then we flatten the 7th, like in a minor, and then we go to 8. There's our octave, right? And if we repeated that, those are our octaves, right? So the first one. So you notice it's just 5 notes, right? That's all you got to the pentatonic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're already on 1 again. So how this works is if we took just one string and we just wanted to play the pentatonic on one string, you could see it even more. You see 1, you see a flat third, then you go to the 4, then you go to the 5, then from the 5 you skip the 6 and you go to the flat 7, and then you go to the 1. So when we say flat third, flat 7, it's flat compared to the standard major scale. That's what it's flat to. So it's flat to if you look at the Ionian scale, just flatten the third, play the 4th, play the 5th, flatten the 7th, and then you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes that make up the pentatonic. So the pentatonic, though, is kind of like the modes in this way. And that you can start on a different note of the pentatonic and you're going to get a different look, a different feel to it. So if I'm playing, say, in the note, the key that we're doing our background song in, which we found out from the prior lesson that it was C sharp minor, which is kind of a crazy scale for a lot of us, or key for a lot of us. We're not used to that. But when you're in there and you go, okay, I'm in C sharp minor, we can look at these patterns. Now this looks like a minor pattern. So when you're in minor, this pattern of the pentatonic works. Okay, so if we were in G major, like we've been kind of doing most of these lessons in kind of the key of just G major, then if you played that minor pentatonic over a major, it's going to sound a little different, a little weird actually. So you have to remember that when you start the pentatonic on a different degree, like you start it instead of playing the first note that you usually start on the pentatonic, start on the second one. It's going to have a different sound to it. And if you started on the third, that would have a different sound to it. So it depends on where you start. Again, like the modes that make these things sound good or don't sound good, according to the key that you're in. Okay, so that just means you can't just. The point is you can't just go, oh, I know this one pentatonic version here, and so I'm just going to play that every time, like I'm in a key. It's just not going to work that way. It's still going to sound. You're going to have to still learn the other ways of playing the pentatonic. Just like we learned how to play the other modes. The reason why we learned all the modes was because some of them are minor when you start on that different note. So if we took the major scale and we just started on the second, or we started on the third, or we started on the fourth, or we started on the fifth, or the sixth, or the seventh, it's going to have a different vibe. And that's what the modes do. They have a different vibe to them. So, if you're playing in a mixolydian mode, so one of these modes, it's going to sound different than the other modes. So that's what's cool. It's like your ears can pick up those things after you guys learn them. So when we go through the modes, if we start on a just G major, instead of going into our example of the song we're going to do, which we are going to get there, but let's just go through some of these patterns, and I'm going to kind of look at my little chart sheet because I do them in a different way, and this is a real basic beginner way, and I kind of like this, so I'm just going to kind of go off of this thing online. But if we took this this first position, and we'll call this the first position. So if we moved up to the second position, I'm going to start on my second finger. Now I'm going to go right to the fourth, and now we're going to go. We're going to go to the fifth. Right? And then we're going to go into the seventh. So this is, remember, there's only 5 notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're at the octave, right? Remember, on guitar, we're just playing it down. We're just playing it this way, right? We're using more strings instead of ripping all our solos on one string, right? Right? That would be hard to do every solo just on one string, but you could. I mean, you really could. If you only had one string, you could work it where you can play a solo on one string, which is radical, right? But we have 6 on this guitar, and you might have more depending on what kind of guitar that you have. So take a break. Okay, so with that being said, hopefully you get this now. So there's, on the pentatonic, you have 1, then you have a flat third, then you have the 4th, then you have the 5th, then you have the flat 7, then you have the octave. That's how it's working. Okay. So hopefully that's making some sense to you guys. Now, what we're doing is now when we start on in the first position of the pentatonic, that's what it looks like. But if we start on the second note of the pentatonic, the second degree, it's always. Now it's the same as this, but we're just starting on the second, and then we just keep doing this. We start on the third or the fourth. Then we start on the fifth. Now we start on the seventh, the flat 7. So it's kind of cool. It's got a really neat sound, right? It reminds me a lot of impressionistic music, actually, when I was studying classical guitar. Maurice Ravel So the Mother Goose Suite in particular, played that one. I remember learning that one up in Humboldt State University, and Scott Tennant and William Canongeiser, some of those guys were there. They were awesome. And but yeah, so this music's like Claude Debussy. When I hear that, I hear a lot of pentatonic sounding stuff going on. Maurice Ravel, that's French impressionistic music, I think it is. Very cool. I like it. I like it. Now, if you just took that first position, we're in, let me just say the first position. I don't want to see G major, because that's kind of a little misleading. So let's scratch the whole G major thing right now. Let's just look at this first position that we're playing, starting on G. And if we took just the 1, the flat third, the 4, the 5, the flat 7, and you just played those. Whoa, it sounds like a song already. But listen. So you might want to practice something like that, where you just get to see where it's at. You see where the notes are at. Because what you're doing is, when we move up the positions of the pentatonic scale, we're just moving off of these notes. These notes that we're hitting are going to be our first one, are going to be our starting place. So we're going to start. We start on the 1, and then we do a scale. And then we're going to now go to the second note that we played, and we're going to do the scale. And then we're going to go to the third note that we played, and then we're going to go to the next note. That's just like we did with the modes again. Okay, so hopefully that's cool. Okay, so if you're in a key like our example, so we're in this C sharp minor, we see that I could look at these modes that you're getting on Google or wherever you're searching just for the straight pentatonic, and you can actually play them over your song and hear what it sounds like and see if it sounds right or wrong. So this is cool. So you can turn your guitar up a little bit, and now take one of your modes, take the first one, the first position. Does that sound good? It does. Now the reason why it does, just so you know, the reason why it does is because this song is in C sharp minor, and the first position of the pentatonic scale that we're learning is actually in minor, right? It starts off 1 flat third, which should tip us off that when it's a flat third, we're maybe hitting the minor. So we got to look at that. So okay, we go, hey, that's good. Now if you look at the other positions, can I try there's other positions that might work too. So you want to mess around with it and see which one works good. So I'm going to try this 4th position on it, because there's 5 positions, remember, because there's 5 notes to the pentatonic, right? Just remember there was 7 positions of the modes. Why? Because there's 7 notes to the scale, to a diatonic scale. And so here you have these 5 scales, pentatonic scales, all relating to the 5 notes of the pentatonic, of course. And now we're gonna just look at this 4th position, because that looks like, when I just look at it on the side here, it looks like a minor 2. So let me look at this and just see how this sounds. Doesn't sound too good. Okay, so it doesn't sound maybe as good as this one. Okay, so that first position to me sounds right. So you can always check it out just by your ear. And even if you don't know any theory at all, guitar theory, you can just pull these modes up, or not these modes, but these 5 areas of the pentatonic, 5 positions, if you will, and you can just run through them as the song's playing. If you know a song's in E, if it's in E minor, you can try all your pentatonics. You're like, nope, that doesn't sound right. Maybe that's it. So, you know, depending, you want to just hear the song, and that's why it's always good if you have a song that you've written, play it. You know, play it and then play it back and then start working your scales, right? Start figuring out, okay, am I my minor, am I major, what's sounding good, what doesn't sound good. Your ear don't lie to you a lot of times. It's usually telling you the truth. So if it's not sounding right, it's probably because you're not playing the right position, you know, the right scale. So we know that we're in C sharp minor, so we know we're starting with this first position. But now listen, we can start, now if we know this is the second note that we played, we know we can play this one. Because that's the second position pentatonic. Or you can kind of do what I do, and this is where I'll show you kind of a little bit how I do these things. So let me get back to so you guys can hear that. Okay, so what is he doing? Or what did he do? Well, if you've played guitar a long time, you know what I'm doing is I'm just adding, what I'm actually doing is I'm adding 3 notes per string. And the reason why is because it's kind of an easy format to solo in when you're doing 3 fast. Okay, that was some fun stuff that I'm just messing around with. But what I'm doing is I'm taking the scales, like when we were starting over here and doing the pentatonic. Then we went to the next one. I'm just adding them both together. Isn't that cool? So I'm just mixing them both together. So I'm doing this one. And this one together to put 3 on a string. Now those that have big hands like Paul Gilbert and Steve Vai and those kind of guys, To them, this is no problem because they have big hands, man. They can just work it. For guys like me who don't have big hands, it really is a lot of work to reach out. And so, what a lot of people do is they just they instead they minimize it and play it other ways. You know, so you just play it the standard way, and sometimes they'll just slide them. So you listen to guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan, right? The late great Stevie Ray Vaughan, and people like that who really, man, these guys are masters at the pentatonic scale. I mean, whew, they smoke. They play that pentatonic scale. They slide it in every way. They constantly are sliding, doing these sliding, and it's really cool, man, the way they do it. I mean, it's just marvelous. And some of you out there might that the pentatonic might be your kind of thing where you've played this thing forever, so you kind of know how to do that. But what we're doing is we're just sliding these into these positions that we're learning. So that's what we're doing. So it's good to learn the positions and make sure that you get these positions down. Now, in my mind, I kind of have learned them over the years. And I didn't do pentatonics for years, by the way. When I was studying classical guitar, we played them, but we never really worked on the scales so much. We worked on major and melodic minor, and that's another scale of the minor that I'm not going to talk about right now because it might get confusing. But so I personally never really messed with the pentatonic too much, but it's awesome. I mean, it always sounds cool. So if you're in minor like we are, then you could start this song, and I'm just going to go up now the positions of the pentatonic in our example here of the music, the background tune, and you can see how I'm just taking these positions and you'll see how it fits. And that's what you want to do, is learn how it fits together. So you can learn them and play a solo. So here we Now I'm going to merge them together. Doing 3 per note. So if I didn't do 3 per note, it would have looked like this. Then we went to the second note. Then we went to the fourth. Then we went up to the fifth. Then we went to the seventh, flat 7. Right? And then we went, but I'm playing. I want to play 3 notes per strings so I could kind of play it a little faster, and so that's why I was trying to figure it out as I was going here. But it's kind of cool because when you take these things away, like you can do really cool string skipping. I remember when I was listening to Racer X when I was a kid, and I used to go see him at the country club out there in Reseda all the time because I lived over there. And so I don't know. I've seen Racer X 16 times probably. It seems like forever. We just saw him all the time. But to watch Bruce and Paul play when I was 13, 14 was just 15. It was awesome. To see those guys play. But I remember them playing. That style. And that's what they're doing is they're taking three notes of that pentatonic and they're per string, and then they're just skipping. So it's kind of cool, right? So it's kind of got a neat sound, but so you can see how skipping a string is kind of cool, right? It kind of sounds neat, right? So it's another again, those everything we learned at the beginning of the shredder lessons, you can kind of move into here. So you can 1, 2. So you can hear how I'm just doing 4s and then 3s. You can do a. So it's kind of cool, right? Like what makes it bluesy actually is when you take that minor position of the first position of the pentatonic and say you just you kind of do that little walk. So it's just a little walk. So you're a lot of like Boston stuff. So it's a real popular sound anyway, this pentatonic. So again, some of the best things you can do is just put on the background song, and just start kind of Okay, so that's what you need to be doing is just working on these 5 positions. So hopefully I've nailed that down to you. Now I want to teach you though, like when you're playing this song, I want to show you something really cool. So say you're in the C sharp minor, right? And you're playing it and you're like, okay, cool, I got this pentatonic thing going too. It's kind of cool, right? Okay, so hopefully you caught a little bit about what I'm doing there. So let me stop. So what I'm doing there, which is really cool, is now you see that, okay, I'm playing the first position of the pentatonic, right? That minor pentatonic, you could say. But you see that I'm playing it over the Aeolian mode. So now, because you know that Aeolian is your main minor of the modes, right? Your traditional minor, your primary minor, if you will. You know, so if you're playing in a minor key, you can always play Aeolian, right? And go, hey, I think that's going to work. If it doesn't, it might be because you have to play a different minor mode. But usually it's always Aeolian. A lot of times. Sorry about that. But you know your Aeolians here. Right? So if you know that that's your Aeolian, and you know this is your pentatonic, then you can go. So now you can see me running in and out of the pentatonic and the Aeolian, okay? And I'm moving into a mixolydian too. That's what I'm doing, is sliding down into the mixolydian position. So that's what I'm doing. So that's why it was so important for you to work on your modes going, if you're in C sharp minor, going all the way that way, and then working on your modes of going all the way this way, because now you see that you have another arsenal, tool in the arsenal, and that's your pentatonic. Right? So it's like if you're in the C sharp minor, let's go back to our 5 pentatonics. You know a pentatonic is there, the 5th position of the pentatonic, because here is our C sharp minor, and here is our 1st position. That's kind of cool, right? You hear that a lot too. It's just taking the pentatonic, and working within, making sure I'm in the right key. And you see I'm just doing a little finger picking there. But you can see how you can do kind of quite a bit with this stuff. So there's so much to do. But my point is that when you're in the 1st position minor, remember we can go into our 5th position. And then we have our 4th position. And then we have our 3rd position. Right? So you can see how that works. So it's kind of cool, right? So you can see how you can go down with the pentatonic, you can go up with the pentatonic. How do you find it? How do you find going down or going up? It's easy. You start it here. There's my next one. There's my next one. That's the octave. So remember, it's just 5 notes. There's 5 notes to the pentatonic and then the octave. So you can go. It's octaves. That's the octave. So we know my next position, if I'm going that way, is going to be here. So it's always good to know how to play a scale on one string, Because if you know how to play the scale on one string, then you know where your next scale is going to be. So you know you can play a scale starting there, you know you play a scale starting there, you know you can play a scale starting there, you know you can play a scale starting there, and you know you can play one there, and you can play one there. And those are your starting places. Isn't that cool? So that's why you have all these positions. I'm really not used to playing these pentatonics just so simply like that. I'm used to always doing, like I say, on 3 per string. So when you're playing this, say you're playing the song, and our song's in the minor, the C minor, Aeolian, mixed to Lillian, into Lydian, right? To what? Mixed to Phrygian. Oh, but here's a So you see how I just played the pentatonic over the mixed Lillian there, and you can do that with everything. So when you go over a scale, when you're learning a mode, you know you can go, okay, what's the equivalent pentatonic 5-note scale that's within that modal area, and that's what you'll do. You'll go, all you have to do is just go, hey, where's my Aeolian? Well, that's going to be my first position of the pentatonic. So find your Aeolian, your minor, and then do your first position of the pentatonic, and then that'll be your starting point to launch off into other things. So that hopefully helps you out. So I'm hoping you grab that, okay? So hopefully you get that, because what you want to do is you want to be able to, again, put on the song, and you want to be able to go, okay, I'm going to find the modes and be able to see. You guys now already on the 11th lesson, you guys are all the way able to run the whole gamut of the neck now in scales, right? With your modal scales, and you're able also now from this lesson to know that the pentatonic, you can actually do the pentatonic now within this area as well. So, and there's all kinds of little videos that you can find on different riffs, what we call riffs on the pentatonic. I'm not a big riff guy myself. I love to make stuff up on my own. I'm just not a real big fan of playing people's riffs. I kind of find that we somewhat do that naturally, but I also find that the beauty of music is that you get to make up your own riff, and it becomes yours, you know, the way you do it and the way you play. And I don't want to sound like everybody else. I want to sound just like I want people to go, "Oh, that's Bo's style. That's how he plays those things." And that's cuz that's my riffs. Those are things that I've learned to do by me doing them just over and over, or me hearing things or going, "Oh, let me try this out," or "Let me try this out," or "Let me try this out." And that's the fun part, right? I think too many people, they listen to too many people, they try to mimic too many bands, and then when they have a band, it sounds just like the other band. You know, it's like, just maybe a titch different, but not much. But, it's fun to listen to music, but man, when you get on the instrument, try to do your own thing as much as you can. Again, certain riffs though might help you just to learn a little bit of how to play certain things, and that's great. Um, but definitely try to learn more of the theory part of things so that you can get in there yourself and go, hey, maybe I'll make something up, or maybe I'll do something totally different, than what I'm used to doing. And that's where you come up with really cool stuff. And then you have a band, and then you sound really different, and you're like, whoa, people are like, that's a little weird, but weird is cool, man. Eddie Van Halen, when he started playing, that was weird, but it was cool. When Randy Rhoads was playing, that was weird, but that was cool. And I think when I first heard Randy do stuff like that, where I just thought that was so weird. That was really weird to play a tapping on kind of this diminished scale. And I never heard that before. I really never heard that in my ear before I heard Randy play. And then we heard that and we were like blown away by it. So that's the cool thing of learning some of this. So hopefully that helps you guys tonight. And there's our pentatonic kind of intro and outro. We don't have to spend tons of time on pentatonic, but hopefully now you kind of get it and you understand. Okay, so have a great night. We'll talk to you guys another day. Bye bye.